Welcome back to the YouTube series on optimizing Notesnook. This will be part 5 of a video series on how best to use Notesnook note-taking app. Once again, this is just my opinion and things that I've discovered as I use this app daily in my workflow. So, as always, take what you hear and see with a grain of salt, but I am highly excited to be able to use this product, coming from a Evernote background and a Notion background, and it just seems to work really well in what I do day by day. So, on this series, this video, we're going to take a look at the notebook area. And so here on our screen, we refer back to our first note that I referred to in the last video. So we have created notes, and of course we have our first note. But like I said, here underneath notes is the notebooks area, and this is where you create a file structure per se, and notes go into notebooks. So when you do open this little notebook area, it still shows whatever note you were looking at originally. But for our reference here, we're looking at this notebook area, and up in the upper corner of that little middle section that says notebooks, you can add another note if you wanted to. This is just a free floating note, not in a notebook. And if you go down, we're going to create a notebook. So when you click on that, now I want you to create a notebook, which is the best way to organize your notes. And it wants a title. So we'll name this Test Notebook. And you can add a description if you like, if you want to describe what the notebook is about. And then underneath, you have an optional box that you can enter a topic. So this, in a way, is like a sub notebook. So if you have a parent notebook and then a child notebook, that is what basically a topic is. So for this instance, we'll go ahead and just say this is test. That's our topic, and we're going to create. Now we have a test notebook, and you'll notice that it was created June 13th, and it has 0 notes. We can click on that, and it gives you more options. Test notebook, it shows there's 0 topic, 0 notes. Now, even though we did create a topic, it apparently didn't take. Now, that is one thing I will bring up as we review this app. There are still a few bugs here and there. There's a few glitches. And if you'll notice at the very bottom, you can report an issue. I won't do it for this video, but you can report an issue, and it does go to the developers and they review it, and then they'll get back to you as to what they find or not find. I've found, in my experience, a lot of the bugs that are reported are quickly fixed. And this is usually announced via Twitter, via other channels. So take advantage of that. When you do see something that's not right, please feel free to report it. So once again, we're under our test notebook, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to go ahead and create a topic again. And remember, we're going to call this test. This is our test topic. And now we have a sub notebook or a topic called test. We can click on that. Now remember, on this panel here on the side, it's going to continuously show you the last note that you looked at. So even though there are 0 notes in the test topic, it still refers to this first note until we add more notes. So we're in the test notebook with the test topic. And we're going up to the top, and we're going to add a note. When you click add a note, it now cleans up your note area, and we can add another note. So let's say Romeo and Juliet. And as you noticed, as I was typing, it fills in the name of the note. And just like before, we can add, information to our note. Romeo, where art thou? Romeo, wherefore art thou? So don't quote me on that for sure. So anyway, Romeo and Juliet is the name of this note. That's in the test notebook. So let's go to the middle section. We're going to the top once again. We're clicking outside that once, clicking back again. So under notebooks, we have our test notebook, which is the parent notebook. And then inside this little block here, you see where we have our sub notebook or our topic, and we called it test. So if I click on the outside of this test notebook, it doesn't show anything up here because we're down into the topics. We're drilling down into the sub notebook. So if we click on test, which is the child notebook or the topic notebook, our note pops up. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Okay, now we can go back to notes. Now remember the last video we created our first note, and so it's just a free floating note. It's not in anything. We did create a tag here that said test, which can be seen here in the tags area. There's test, but we're wanting to place our first note into a notebook. So if you will click on that to choose it, see how my green line now chose that one. If I were in Romeo and Juliet, it would go down to this one. But I'm going to this top one, which we pinned, and I'm going to right click on that note within that middle area. And now you have a whole bunch of other choices here. We can pin it, which we did, so it has the checkbox beside it. We can turn it into a read-only note. You choose that, and now it cannot be edited at all. It can just be read only until you go back in and unchoose the read-only. You can favorite it, so it's in our favorites list. You could lock the note, which is a premium experience that you do have to pay for. Reminders, I've actually never used that before, but you can set a reminder to reference back the note, say in another day or another week, if you want to remember to reference the note. We go into our notebook, so that's where we're at. So notebooks, if you come over here to the choice, link to, click on that, and now it wants us to select a notebook to link that note to. And if you'll notice, here is our choice, test notebook. If you pull down this little drop down arrow, with test notebook, of course, is the parent notebook, the main notebook that we've created. Underneath is the topic of test or the sub notebook. You can place them in either one. You can't place them in both, but it has to be one or the other. So we could choose to put it in test notebook. Now see how it turned to green with a little check mark. Or if we want it to go into the sub notebook of just test, now that is a green check mark, and we'll hit done. Now the only thing that changed here, we still have the view of our note, we still have a couple of examples of our notes, but now our first note shows at the very top that it is in the test sub notebook. Okay, so say we don't want it in the sub notebook anymore. We don't want it in that topic. We can right click on the note again, go down to notebook. We could unlink that note from anything that it's in, and then it just becomes a floating note again. Or we can go back to link to, pull down that little arrow, and it shows, of course, that it's in the test sub notebook, or we can put it in the parent notebook, which is the test notebook up here. Choose that. When I chose that, that becomes a green check mark. This becomes an X, showing that it's no longer in this test area. Hit done. And now our note reflects that it is in a different notebook, test notebook. Come over here to the notebooks header, click on that, back out. Okay, so under notebooks, we have a test notebook, and it shows that we have a sub notebook with tests. And here is our note, our first note. And under test, the sub, we have Romeo and Juliet. So I know that's a lot of information to review. It does take some getting used to of moving things from notebooks to sub notebooks to creating topics. But once again, if you don't attach a note to any notebook or any topic, it does just become a free floating note. So an example of that, go up to notes. We have only 2 notes in this test account. We have Romeo and Juliet and our first note. Let's go to create a note. And this is just going to be literally gobbledygook. And underneath it, more gobbledygook. Okay, now we did that. Here's Romeo and Juliet that we created. Here's our first test, or our first note that we placed in our test notebook. And if you see under this notes, this is a view of all your notes. Here is the gobbledygook one, and you'll notice there's nothing showing with it. So it literally is a floating note where you have notes, notebooks. These 2 are in notebooks. This one is a floating one. So if you have a mix and you're trying to, find out where your note is, refer to your notes, general notes area, and you'll notice some are floating, some are in notebooks. I do keep mine in a notebook structure, and that is the next thing that I want to suggest, or at least, give you an idea of. And this comes from Tiago Forte and his para method. Highly suggest you look that up, and I'll link some information to that down in the show notes. But Tiago Forte does have a lot of information on productivity. He is coming from an Evernote background, but a lot of his ideas, thoughts, and suggestions are applicable to just about any notes app. So under notebooks, the first way he suggests to collate your information is by having a projects area. Oops, sorry, I had that all in capitals, projects. Okay, we're not going to have any topics. We're just going to have projects. I'm going to create it. So we have projects. Another area that he suggests to designate is an areas area, literally. And this can mean areas of responsibility. Create that. Then you have a resources area. And then finally, you have an archive. So now we have an archive. Oh, and see, now this is one of the limitations of the free version. If you noticed, well, I keep getting a message here to upgrade your account to Pro to use this feature. So it does only allow you just a few notebooks before it does want you to, upgrade your account to the Pro version. So as I was saying with Tiago Forte and his para structure, PARA, he has a projects area, an areas area, which is an areas of responsibility. He has a resources area, and then he has an archive. And so you can create notebooks like that. That's just literally the scraping just the surface of what the notebooks area has and can do. There is so much more information that can be gone into with all of this area with notes, notebooks, favoriting, tags, the monographs, reminders, and of course your trash can, and then multiple settings. Like I said, there's just so much to look at. And if we did a very in-depth video, it could be quite long. So that's why I've sort of broken these videos up into 10-minute, 12-minute chunks or less sections. So that's about all I wanted to talk about on the notebooks area. I highly suggest you take advantage of this app. Uh, of course, feel free to sign up for free to begin with. Play around with, what it offers, and then if it feels comfortable, then invest in a pro subscription and continue from there. So hopefully there will be more videos coming out over the next while. The developers at Notesnook are always upgrading, changing, making the app better, listening to its users and subscribers to make the app even better. So uh, just take your time with it. Refer back to these videos. Look at other videos. Um, this Notesnook app is now just uh, really coming out into the public more and more. It's starting to be recognized more and more in the productivity space. So they are always on Twitter. There's not many YouTube videos, I will admit. So that's why I wanted to, create a short series just describing, what it has to offer. So with that being said, I do appreciate you taking time out of your day to review this video. And like I said, hopefully in the near future there'll be more videos that I can release. But until then, thanks for watching and have a good day.